Southern Grind Bed Monkey with a patented Emerson Wave pocket quick deploy feature and a rather well-tuned thumb stud opening. With a liner that thick, it should be called scales over frame. The disproportionately small pocket clip sits on top of these unrefined carbon fiber scales. There are no thrills on this knife, but it functions well. This massive, grippy handle provides excellent hand support for the flipping action. The biggest issue I found is how deeply this lock engages the blade. This doesn't leave a lot of room for wear. The other issue is more cosmetic. I found chips around the pivot hole. This is a big knife. 4-inch blade is made out of 14C 28N steel. The knife gives you a sense of a tool purpose-built for hard use, with very few embellishments. The knife is well balanced, and the back of the handle is shaped like a pistol grip, giving you plenty of purchase for doing some light chopping. This feels like it can do about anything. Operating this knife while wearing gloves is pretty doable. This is what I do to qualify any knife that I plan to carry on an everyday basis. The idea is to twist it a couple dozen of times in both directions to see if the frame and the scales will hold. A lesser knife would have suffered a blade play after this, but the Bed Monkey stayed pretty good. No issues on the spine lock. Like I said, this liner lock acts more like a frame lock due to the thickest liner I've seen. And this is my signature test that you all been waiting for. The Tree of Doom, where I strike the tip of the knife onto this dead oak tree and then pry it left to right, right to left, to see if I can break the tip. There are at least a dozen blade tips stuck in the tree somewhere, including 2 MagnaCut, 2 RPM 9, 2 D2, and 1 SK5. This is a second blade in 14C28N that I tested. Both passed. It's time to put this Worksharp Pro Precision Adjust to work. First thing is to find the factory angle. I am not planning to change the angle on this knife because I want to keep it as a hard working tool. And this steel, the steel does not, it takes a very keen edge even at the obtuse angle. It does not require putting an extreme angle like 15, 17 degrees. Okay, I always zero out my inclinometer or angle finder on the base, not on the table, because it's the relationship between the base and the knife what matters. So, and right now I'm at around 20.75. I'm gonna take it to 22. I suspect that's the angle on this blade. And now I'm gonna take a swipe with a abrasive to see where the line ends up. And the line ended up closer to the edge of the knife. That means my angle is too obtuse. I need to take it down. It's gonna be in that ballpark, 20. So take that off and do another swipe. And I think I'm right there, spot on. So the factory set angle is 20. Now I was using the finer of the 2 stones or 2 abrasives I was gonna use. This is a 600 and this is a 400. Right now I estimate the knife is somewhere around 240, 300 maybe grind. So I'm gonna take a little pass with a 400. This knife is very well sharpened. Sure, they used a fixed angle sharpening device similar to this, far superior to what you get on a machine grind. For example, you see horrible edges lately on Benchmades. Not all of them, there's some that are better than the others. I've seen terrible edges on other mid-tech brands like maybe Medford. And now I switch to the other side. And oftentimes what you see, the knife makers don't change the symmetricity between the two edges. But this one is coming in within half a degree. So I'm not going to mess with the angle here because it's hitting the blade right where I want it. Some people go through raging arguments whether you should grind only this way, or only that way. And I'll be honest with you, I did it every possible way and I don't see much of a difference. The only time it makes a difference is when you're trying to knock off the burr. On 14C steel, 14C28, and the burr forms very quickly and it's very distinctive. On some steels like S90V, the burr is almost imperceptible and it's sort of not continuous, if you know what I mean. If we're lucky, the camera angle will allow you to see I'm pushing the burr up from the bottom of the blade because I'm already getting a burr along the entire edge. Let me see right here. I think the edge comes too close to where the plunge line starts to pull out. So I wish that choil was extended another 1/8 of an inch into the blade, away from the camera. And that is so that my width or thickness of the edge would remain consistent, at least through the straightaway part of the blade. As it stands, I will probably get just a little bit of a smiley face right here. No big deal. So now that I know I have the burr along the entire edge, I don't try to pull it off by flipping the knife and hitting it again. All I'm doing here, I'm switching to a finer abrasive, which is 600 here, and I'm going to give it a polish here. And that's as far as I'm going to take this steel. I don't think on a knife of this type, on a large blade, you need, especially in this steel, that holds holds the edge on like in any average premium steel knife, but it sharpens so easily that I am not trying to prolong the edge retention by putting a crazy acute angle on it. It's just not going to be required for this blade. And I am not going to take it to the mirror polish. Thumb studs are not removable, but because of where they're located, clearly they didn't cause any issues, did not interfere with sharpening at all. So that I can turn it. And so the burr is still on this side, and now I'm going to give it a swipe just to clean it off so I'm not dragging the burr onto the blade. By the way, I've sharpened probably 30, 40 knives, and they're nylon kind of bushings there that are wearing out, and it's really annoying because this is an expensive sharpening system. Some people say it's a mid-price, $250 is what it costs. And I am thinking about replacing these plastic bushings that are worn out. They're egg-shaped holes in them, so the blade, the abrasive has a little bit of play that it developed. So I really think they should have put bronze or even steel bushings inside here. There are, I think, 3 bushings here in this device. Well, it's supposed to be a knife review, not... Okay, and this is what I love about that 14C28N steel is it gives a really good consistent burr. So now I'm just pulling the burr off. I'm doing swiping motion. And then I'm going to use the stropping plate. Very light pass here. Yeah, I still have the burr. And I'm going to give it a light pass over here. I have to say, whoever made this knife wasn't messing around, because it's very seldom, take my word for it, I own knives up to $800 in value. And this is one of the most symmetric edges that I've gotten in the mid-tech price range. You can see that white line here? This is the burr. It popped right off. So I think I'm gonna switch to the stropping plate. This is leather with a green compound, stropping compound, polishing compound, and I'm gonna strop it like so. That's a beautiful steel. So I took the abrasive down to 600, and it gives me a near polish edge after stropping with a stropping plate with the green compound. I'm not chasing the mirror edge, but because I didn't take it beyond 600, I know it'll be plenty toothy for cutting things that are hard to slice, like the paper towel. So I can grab my hand strop, but I'm just trying to clean up a little bit. I want to give it a little bit of that hand pass. That's very sharp right now. Trying to see if I feel the burr anywhere. I'm just gonna run the edge on leather. No, I don't think there's any burr left. Let's see. Yeah, you can probably tell the difference here. It splits this paper towel pretty nicely. This knife is plenty sharp. So I wanted to do some comparisons between this knife and the other knives in this size and price category. And surprisingly enough, there isn't much in between $180 and $230 price range that you can get in a 4-inch blade. Made in the USA. All I could find in my over 200 knives collection was a Benchmade Presidio Microtech MSI, which is a very comparable, I don't know how to show it better. It's a very comparable knife. And then another knife I happen to have was this beautiful Benchmade Crooked River full-size knife. So this is a very comparable knife. You can see the blade curvature is very similar. This is clip point. Obviously this is a drop point, but size and feel-wise, this feels a little skinnier in the hand. They both feel pretty ergonomic, just slightly different. You know, I'm not in love with this clip, which brings me to the next question. It looks almost like a Benchmade clip, so is it possible for me to stick a Benchmade style clip on it? This knife doesn't really need a deep pocket clip, but let me see here. Yeah, it looks like a Benchmade clip would fit. You shouldn't do it. I tried and I found two things I learned. First of all, the Southern Grind clip has three holes. The central hole right here, the middle hole, you need to use a longer screw here. There are three screws, and one of them is longer than the other two. And the reason is because it goes through the liner and it goes into this spacer here. So if you put a Benchmade 2-hole deep pocket clip, it will cover up that hole, that middle hole, and your spacer will only be supported on one side, which is not a good idea. I don't think the knife will stop working, but it's a good idea if you're going to stress the knife and use it hard to have all three. And when I put a deep pocket clip on it and try to use an Emerson Wave to quick deploy it out of the pocket, it sucked. It sits so deep in the pocket that there's nothing to grab on right here, and your fingers will slip off the clip. It just didn't work. So I spare you some time. You don't need to watch me trying to do it for 15 minutes. Accept the idea that it is not a deep pocket carry knife. So I don't know why they're using proprietary hardware all around. Yeah, the pivot has a T8 Torx socket right here, but the rest is this double tap kind of